Wrapping up here real quick on Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank Mark Bergen so much for coming on to the show, talking Chicago Bears, talking NFL Draft, talking Caleb Williams. My final couple minutes here on the show is I want to get across that, look, I think this is probably going to be being talked about a lot on Thursday radio and across Chicago sports socials. Recording this on a Wednesday night, I just watched the Cubs-Padres game, and the Chicago Cubs, unfortunately, have a Kyle Hendricks problem. It pains me to say this. The professor has mystified, dazzled us, come out of nowhere to become one of the more heralded Chicago Cubs pitchers over the last couple of decades. Certainly a fixture in my life for the last 8 or 9 years. And is one of the remaining Cubs from the World Series team. There's nobody else left but him. I want Kyle Hendricks to succeed. And I'm not saying we kick him out of the rotation right now, but I am saying that I think we do have a Kyle Hendricks problem for a couple different reasons. First, let's just start plain and simple with the numbers. Kyle Hendricks, through 12 2/3 innings this season, that's only 3 starts. He's allowed 17 runs, 26 hits, 4 walks, 5 home runs. 26 hits and 4 walks. That's just 30 base runners alone in 12 2/3 innings. Jesse Rogers put out a tweet just a little bit ago that he's given up the most earned runs through the first 3 starts of a season since a pitcher from 1913. For context, and I know what we're saying, Kyle Hendricks is getting a little bit older. We had those same questions in those conversations last season. Through 24 starts last year, Kyle Hendricks allowed 5 or more earned runs only twice in his 24 starts all last season. Right now, he is 3 for 3. Going back through history, look, Kyle Hendricks has had a propensity to run into a bad matchup. I get it. It's the Texas Rangers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the San Diego Padres. All 3 of those teams, in my opinion, will be top half offensive lineups by the end of the season. But we just have never seen this from Kyle Hendricks before. He had a stretch sort of similar to this, a touch in 2021. He allowed 6 earned runs or more in 4 starts in a 7-start span. He was able to sort of smooth it out and get his way out of it. But look, his ERA is over 10 right now. Nothing seems to be working. He can't get out of innings. That's the other problem. The veteran moxie, the guile that you want out of a pitcher at his stage of career to get out of an inning. He's really struggling to do that right now. And I think the Chicago Cubs have a Kyle Hendricks problem because of 2 things. One, I've loved what I've seen from Ben Brown so far. I don't know if he's going to be a full season answer, but what we've seen so far is enough to give me confidence to keep giving him the ball and keep giving him some more chances. To this point, with Justin Steele on the injured list, Jameson Taillon on the injured list, I think Jordan Wicks, Shota Imanaga, and Javier Assad have stepped up big time, and none of those guys should have their roster or their rotation spot in jeopardy whenever Taillon and Steele come back. So there's only so many chairs before the music stops, and Kyle Hendricks right now does not deserve a chair at this point. I get it, pedigree, he's going to work his way out of it, but when Steele comes back or when Taillon comes back, one of these guys is going to have to move out. I think Ben Brown is the obvious choice just for right now. He's young. He deserves to get some more seasoning. You probably put him in the bullpen, which he's been used a couple of times this year. And when Taillon comes back, you're going to have to make another decision on how Javier Assad and how Jordan Wicks is doing. But none of those guys have done anything to deserve to get kicked out of the rotation just because Kyle Hendricks pitched Game 7 of the World Series in 2016. The other problem with this, and this is where I think Craig Counsell is going to really have to start doing that little thing we call managing this season, is that can you really use Kyle Hendricks out of the bullpen? Is that really something? I'm not familiar with what his warm-up routine is. Some guys, it takes them 20 to 25 minutes. Other guys can get warm a little bit faster. I'm not familiar with that is with Kyle Hendricks, but can he possibly be a bullpen guy? Typically, when you go to the bullpen, all we see right now is smoke and sliders, right? We see 97 miles an hour. We see balls diving out of the zone. Do you really bring in a changeup pitcher who's throwing 87, 88 miles an hour to cover a few innings for you? Could you tandem him with a Ben Brown, for example, where Ben Brown goes his 3 or 4 innings, or a Cade Horton goes his 3 or 4 innings, and you make your way over to Kyle Hendricks? Does that make sense? Does that work? And does that look work against opposing lineups? I have big questions about that. Of course, Another bad start. He's probably a phantom injury away from going on the injured list for a little while to see if he can get things shored up and figured out. But right now, it's not good for Kyle Hendricks. This is a really bad start for him. I'm rooting for him. I still think the Chicago Cubs have plenty of innings to cover this season, so I'm not saying get rid of him now. We're good without you, Kyle Hendricks. But this is a serious problem for the Chicago Cubs, and I don't think it has an easy solution. That's why I'm bringing it up, and that's why I'm going to be so interested to see what Craig Counsell decides to do. If Kyle Hendricks continues to struggle, Taillon gets healthier, he gets through his rehab starts, he comes back, Steele gets healthier, gets through his rehab starts, he comes back. There's not going to be any room in that rotation, and that might mean that Kyle Hendricks, the 2016 one of the World Series heroes, a guy who's been around for forever, a guy that we love and is a fan favorite, may be the odd man out in the Cubs rotation moving forward. That's going to do it for Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank John Zaglul for letting me sub in for him again. He should be back next week. I want to thank John Meadows, the fantastic producer in the producer's chair. Follow us at Sports Talk Chicago. If you watch us on YouTube, like, comment, question below. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you listen to us on one of our fantastic radio affiliate stations throughout the state of Illinois, like, 98.3 The Life, WKAN, 105.5 The Ticket, ACTV, JED TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9 Talk FM, or our new sponsor, 1011 Peoria Sports Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Plenty more to come. Thank you so much for listening. Be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. 2 weeks till the NFL draft. At some point, I promise I will do a rant like everybody else in the White Sox. Everyone, I'll take my turn. I'll put my boxing gloves on, I'll get in the ring, and I'll bang that one out, but not this week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back soon. Be well. Have a great week.